Yeah. First off, thank you very much, John, and thank you to Fox Business for hosting this forum. I was born in Independence, Missouri. I was raised on a horse farm in Peculiar, just a short drive from a town called Liberty. Coincidence? I'll let you guys be the judge. I learned about economic liberty when my parents sent me out into the fields to plant chrysanthemums and sell them to the people of my small town. I learned about personal liberty from those who taught me about the Golden Rule. I believe that people are inherently good and that they can be trusted with freedom, and that freedom should be as expansive as possible. The role of government is to protect our liberty, not our security. That's what the Second Amendment is for. I'm the grassroots candidate with a real national campaign. I have an army of freedom ninjas at my back who have been volunteering for me and financing me the entire way. I'm the fiscally conservative candidate with $0 of campaign debt, and I've budgeted my funds in the same manner that I would govern. I am proving that you can do more with less. I may be the youngest candidate in this race, but I'm the oldest in Libertarian years. I'm the anti-establishment candidate in this anti-establishment party. I'm here to shake things up and inspire a generational liberty movement now and into the future. I believe that I am the only candidate on this stage who can inspire a coalition of libertarians, conservatives, reasonable Democrats, and independents to win. I'm pro-life, pro-constitution, and pro-freedom. My plan is to take over the government so I can leave everyone alone. Thank you. The revolution continues. Thank you, friends.
All right,
You know, obviously terrorism is a threat, but we have got to resist these politicians who are going to fearmonger as an excuse to take away our liberties. We have got to stand up to people who use every tragedy as an excuse to take away our constitutional rights. Now listen, Thomas Jefferson had the Islamic terrorists of his day. He still managed to fight them constitutionally. After 9/11, Congressman Ron Paul went to the Congress and asked for letters of marque and reprisal. Congress should update these letters. Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution would give us powerful tools to fight ISIS in a way that doesn't involve invasion, occupation, and nation building. No matter what, if we want to defend our national security, we should only go to war with a declaration of war. The president should always obey the Constitution, and if I'm Commander-in-Chief, I promise to only go to war if it's constitutional and to obey the law.
and just a quick answer, please. When is it right to go to war?
When attacked.
The president does have the power of the veto.
Well, when is it right to go to war?
Only if the Congress declares war constitutionally is it right for the United States.
When should Congress?
If we have a significant threat, there are circumstances when the United States may go to war, but we should only do so through due process.
Welcome back to our Libertarian Presidential Forum. On Facebook, Lonnie posts, people say libertarians will cut the safety net, welfare programs to non-existent. So, how would you address the welfare state? Should it be replaced? How is it not effective? What should happen? Mr. Petersen.
I have a spending plan and a taxing plan that would cut across the board. This is called the penny plan. And what this would do, this would put us on the path to a balanced budget. Yes, I do think that we need to cut away some of these social safety nets, but we should not do it overnight. My penny plan cuts 1 penny from every federal dollar across the board. If Congress decides that one program is too important, such as Medicare and Medicaid, they could make an equal corresponding cut. It also includes a balanced budget amendment. We need to force Congress to live within their means. 18% of total GDP. If the American people have to balance their checkbook, so should Congress. Right now, the debt to GDP ratio is 105%. Let's force them to stay within the law. No more than 18% of GDP. Cut the budget across the board. Everybody takes a haircut. That's how we'll shrink government, and no one is going to be hurting.
No one is going to be hurting, he said. People say you libertarians. Thank you. All right, these are nice thoughts, but what specifically would you cut? Agencies, for example.
The state is the great fiction through which everybody endeavors to live at the expense of everyone else. I would cut them all. They had no right to take it from us in the first place. The United States should not be in the business of charity. You are not charitable because you put a gun to someone else's head and you force them to be charitable. Charity is given from the heart. We need to get back to that. That's what made America great. We have removed the role of charity in society. Families, friends, neighbors, churches, community, society. Where is the love for one another. Government doesn't love us. That's what we need. We need to get back to a system where people can take care of one another. The Catholic Church would love to step in and do charity, but the government gets in the way. And Obamacare has destroyed our healthcare system. As president, I would demand that Congress send me legislation overturning the ACA on day one.
Governor Johnson, you agree? Something different? Mr. Petersen.
You said something like that.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, the first thing that I would do is I would obey the Constitution and respect the Fourth Amendment rights of American citizens. Now, we can fight ISIS. They have inspired attacks on our own homeland, such as in Garland, Texas, and they have attacked Brussels, and they have murdered terrorists in Paris. So they are a sincere threat. But if we obey the Constitution and we follow the advice of the founders and we listen to Congressman Ron Paul, there are thousands of grizzled veterans that are just aching for an opportunity to do their country a favor that would be more than happy to go over there and take care of these boys for us. I trust the Constitution. I trust Thomas Jefferson. I trust the founders. I believe that if we follow the law, that we can protect ourselves and secure our liberties at the same time.
Mr. Johnson, Austin Petersen, here's my problem with you. You're 12 years old. You're not old enough to be president.
I'm 35, so I'm constitutionally eligible. On July 4th, 1776, Thomas Jefferson was 33 years old. James Madison was 25 years old. The Marquis de Lafayette was 18, and Alexander Hamilton was 18. It was young men that founded this country, and young people will restore it. Young people will take our country back. So don't hate because I'm young and pretty. Because we will take our country back. It's the young people that are going to fight for it. Join my campaign.
All right, Ben. You wanted to add something?
Well, I just want to say that, yes, Governor Johnson has stated that he does side with him on social issues, and we had a big kerfuffle in Oregon last week because Governor Johnson has stated that he believes that bakers should be forced to bake wedding cakes for people that they disagree with, homosexual couples. And this is a big problem because we're running for president as a libertarian.
Is he correct in quoting you?
Yes, but I think that if you discriminate on the basis of religion, I think that that is a black hole. Look, I think you should be able to discriminate for stink or you're not wearing shoes or whatever. But I'll tell you what, if we discriminate on the basis of religion, to me, that's doing harm to a big class of people. And right now,
should a Jewish baker be required to bake a Nazi wedding cake?
I think Muslims right now in this country... I think Muslims in this country would be banned by all sorts of businesses right now because it would be the popular thing to do.
So the Jewish baker should have to bake the cake for the Nazi wedding.
That would be my contention, yes. And the example that I cited was, how about the utility the utility that is privately owned, and because it's the only market that I have to buy my electricity, they're going to cut me off for religious reasons.
This betrays a fundamental lack of understanding of the free market. You have to allow the marketplace to work. The government cannot stamp out bigotry. The government is not supposed to make us into better people. That's not what the United States was founded on. The United States was founded so that we could be whatever we wanted. Now, I hate bigotry, and I would stand outside these people's store, and I would encourage a boycott. I stand up for my friends for their gay rights, and everyone should be equal before the law. But let the bigots out themselves. Let's know who's going to do it. Who wants to eat a cake from someone who hates you?
Out of time, Austin. I get your point. Coming up, abortion, game. We're back with our Libertarian presidential debate. Mr. Petersen, when you introduced yourself, you made a point of saying you're pro-life. You would have government ban abortion?
The first thing that I would do is to try and find every non-coercive measure that we can to end abortion, and there are options. Ending the federal war on drugs would allow women to purchase birth control over the counter.
But would you have laws on abortion?
The president has no authority to enact laws on abortion. The Congress writes the law. But we should be morally pro-life. All humans deserve the same right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and we should find every opportunity we can to save lives. The unfortunate truth is that the reason why there is this, quote, gender pay gap is because of women's choices. Women fall out of the workforce. They have children. They don't work as long hours. So when you look at the economic data side by side, the truth is that the gender pay gap closes. And now more women get more degrees, and 35 years and younger, those women are actually now making more because more women are going to college than men. So should government force more men to get into college? The government should stay out of it.
Last question. Suppose none of you exists. You have a choice between voting for Trump or Clinton. Who?
I would choose to remain non-existent. I don't vote for people that I don't believe in.
Mr. McAfee, lesser of evils?
You're asking me to choose. Immigrants as well should have to be documented and made legal.
I think we can incentivize legal immigration, so that we can cut down on illegal immigration. If we make a simpler path to citizenship, then people will not break the law if they know that there's a chance that they can come here.
Simple path for the 11, 12 million illegals already here. Just let them.
Yeah, they're already here. They're already adding to our economy. So why don't we make it so that they can find a path to citizenship?
Because they lied to get in. It's an insult to the people who followed the rules.
If you were living in a third world country and your family was starving to death, who would not cross that wall? We have got to make it simple for them to come here because we have a policy of love towards immigrants. We're an immigrant nation. My last name is Petersen, spelled S-E-N. The Danish came over here through Ellis Island. We need to have a simple path to naturalization. Disease check, security check, done.
Any disagreement?
Well,
I just want to say that you left out a part of Milton Friedman's statement there, because when he said that you can't have open borders in a welfare state, then he followed up by saying that means that illegal immigration is actually superior. Why? Because then they don't qualify for benefits. So if we had a simpler path to naturalization, we wouldn't have the problem, but we should build a wall around the welfare state.
Next topic.
Itself and our jobs will improve.
Liberty is the opposite of license. We have got to get rid of the occupational licensing in this country. Why do you need a license to braid hair? The government has got to get out of the way. The Institute for Justice has been stepping in for this. If the government would get out of the way, why do I need a certificate to cut hair? Ladies and gentlemen, this is ridiculous. Occupational licensing is one of the greatest threats to liberty and entrepreneurship.
we have to do that.
Don't you think that King George would have declared the colonists to be mentally ill? It's the government that sets the standards. The government has no right to take away our form of our form of self-defense. It is an individual right to bear arms. We, the people, are the militia, and we should have every right to defend ourselves. I would overturn the National Firearms Act so fast your head would spin, because nobody should be forced to pay $200 to put a suppressor on the end of their AR-15. I built my first one last year, and I use it frequently for hunting. But the Second Amendment was not for hunting. The Second Amendment was to shoot at tyrants if the government becomes tyrannical. Can we get the governor on the record about what he thinks the government should do in terms of background checks?
On the record, Austin, on the record, I have always supported gun rights. I signed concealed carry in New Mexico. My political advocacy group has been talking about don't limit the caliber
take it easy. Don't act so crazy, we might take your guns, Governor. Who do you think should be restricted in terms of owning guns?
I don't.
Who do you think is mentally unstable?
Somebody that is mentally unstable.
And how would you determine that?
I find
and what role does the federal government have to play?
Are you listening?
Yeah.
I find it difficult to be able to actually come up with a piece of legislation that would address that. That's what I said.
We won't solve that in this segment. When we come back, a question from Dana Perino. Have no environmental
definitely have no
protection
EPA.
agency.
Absolutely, sir.
Mr. Petersen?
The EPA are a bunch of unelected bureaucrats with assault rifles.
You would abolish the EPA?
Well, the president does not have the authority to abolish anything. We have to work through Congress, and you have to obey the Constitution.
Would you ask Congress to?
I would ask Congress to do so, but if they would not do it, I would ask them to relegate the EPA to their original enforcement role. The EPA was not meant to go out and harass Oregonians and murder Oregonians. The problem with the EPA is that they are originally supposed to provide scientific evidence in cases where property rights were in dispute. If the EPA is to exist, that's all they should be doing, providing scientific expertise. You know, I always say I don't believe in gun control, but I do think that we need to control the government's uses of guns. We've got to disarm the feds.
All right, but no EPA, Governor Johnson? This seems like one agency that we did need.
I think that government exists to protect us against individuals, groups, corporations that would do us harm. And there are polluters out there. In New Mexico, there was a mine that was polluting a river in northern New Mexico. It had been allowed to pollute for decades. My biggest ace in the hole was I was going to make them a Superfund site if, in fact, they didn't come to the table because they were bad actors. If it weren't for federal EPA shutting them down, they would still be polluting that river. I put this in the context of protecting us against harm.
What about global warming? Should they protect us from that?
Whether global warming is true or not, government should play no role. It's not the job of the government to protect us from these things. The government is actually the biggest polluter. Did you know? So let's get the government out of the business of polluting. And the reality is, ladies and gentlemen, is that there is a scientific consensus that states that there is a warming trend. But the truth is that there may actually be some benefits to the warming trend. Scientists are good at looking at the facts on the ground, but they're terrible at predictions. They're not Nostradamus, and we shouldn't be making those kinds of policy decisions and beating people over the head to solve a problem. China won't come to the table, by the way. They're a big polluter. India, they're greater polluters than the United States. So what is the federal government going to do to force China and India to come to the table? That's the question. Why do we have to crack down on the Americans? Why is it always we have to tax Americans? That's the problem, is that we are not even the biggest polluter, so it's hypocritical of the government to try and enact these legislation on us.
Mr. McAfee.
Yeah, I have to say that Bill O'Reilly's being a pinhead on this one. Sorry, Bill. You know, because drugs are illegal, that they are so dangerous. We saw this with Prohibition when they were making bathtub gin. If you knew what kind of dosages you were taking when it came to illegal drugs, you might know what the danger is. Drug dealers... Thank you. Drug dealers don't check IDs. We've spent $1 trillion on a no-win war on drugs. One of Nixon's aides just came out recently and said that the war on drugs was meant to crack down on hippies and black people. It's ridiculous. We've got to stop this. This is where we get the violence on the border. If you guys want to have a more secure border, then you've got to end the war on drugs. We will be a safer, freer nation.
Governor Johnson. Hey. Closing statement time. Each candidate gets 45 seconds. We begin with Austin Peters.
My fellow Americans, you and I have a rendezvous with destiny. This year we must decide if we are going to nominate a candidate who represents the future of our movement, or if we are content with stagnation. Now, I might just seem like an energetic youth, but in 1 Timothy it says, "Don't let anyone look down on you because you're young, but set an example for believers in speech, conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity." I believe in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for all individuals, regardless of age, race, faith, non-faith, or sexuality. We're all made of the same star stuff, people, and we're all endowed with the same individual rights. May the light of liberty shine on all of humanity forever, and especially on my beloved United States of America.
Mr. McAfee.